Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Sunday on Monday. This is the space, this is the platform, this is the forum where we unpack Sunday's messages on Monday. And we do it this way so it's more condensed and also that it fits into your schedule, it fits into your week. Now, this is not meant to replace Sunday. This is meant to add value, and this is meant to add to your walk and add to your regimen that you're already doing. This is really supposed to add to what you got going on. Let me also say this is not meant to substitute. This is more of a supplement. And what you do with supplements, you take it with. So this is supposed to be a supplement. It's not meant to substitute your walk. Now, if what you hear on this message piques your curiosity, I encourage you to be sure to follow us at CrownOrl, go to our platform, and listen to the entire message so you can get full context, so you can get a full illustration, so you can get everything that it comes with that. Now, today on Sunday on Monday, here at CrownOrl, I wanted to speak to you specifically about make the adjustment. Yeah, want to condense that. Make the adjustment. And there's about three main points that I want to unpack with you today on making the adjustment. The first thing that we have to understand is that when it comes to making the adjustment, and the context here comes from, there's a couple of scriptures that I want to use, but the main context is from Matthew chapter 22 about the parable of the feast. But the invitation, what we have to understand is that the first thing is that the invitation is free, but adjustment is still required. The invitation is free, but the adjustment is still required. God's invitation, when we think about it, is wide. Everyone is invited, but the wedding garments that we see here in the text, mainly between in Matthew 22, what we see here is that the wedding garments that's required shows us something that is extremely critical. And those thoughts are this: you can accept the invitation without accepting the terms. Everyone that comes to church is not saved. Everyone that says Jesus, whether it's on the awards, whether it's before an event or activity, everyone that huddle around and pray, there may be some reverence and some respect for God, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they fully accepted God's terms as Lord over their lives. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that being present is not the same as being aligned. There's a lot of people that are in places of worship, in churches, in things of God. They're in proximity to the things of God, but truth be told, they're not in alignment. This is one of the reasons why God says this, that someone can look the part, but their heart is not with me. Though they look the part, their heart is not in alignment. And so what we see here is that the invitation is free, but adjustment is required. It's saying that grace welcomes us all in, but grace never makes excuses for staying the same. I'm going to say it again. Grace welcomes everybody in, but grace does not make the excuse for us to stay the same. And so the invitation costs nothing, but the adjustment is going to cost you everything. See, grace calls us in, but we still are responsible to count the cost of that growth and development. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that repentance is the adjustment God is looking for. So grace calls us in, but adjustment is required. Repentance is that adjustment. Repentance is not just feeling bad about something. It's not feeling bad because you got caught. That's not really repentance. Repentance, true repentance, is changing your mind that leads to changing the direction. See, when we look at the things and the elements of church, whether it's prayer, baptism, church attendance, all of those things, we got to be careful not to get into a routine and a rhythm where instead of it being relational, it's more ritualistic. And the thing about that is, the difference between what makes it relational and what makes it ritualistic is the heart, is the posture of repentance. See, with a posture of repentance, prayer, baptism, attendance, all of those things that you see in the routine feeds the relationship. But when there is no repentance, then it's just rituals. You're just attending to attend. The prayers are just words. The baptism is just water. Attendance is just you going in the building. But if your heart is far from him, they say it with their mouths, but the heart is far. See, repentance closed that gap. That's why it's extremely important. See, Matthew 3 verse 8 says, bear fruit in keeping with repentance, which means fruit is the visible evidence of inner change. Fruit is the visible evidence of a transformed life. So repentance always produces fruit. No fruit, no adjustment, right? So proof that we are adjusting will show in our fruit. Here's the third thing. So the first thing is the invitation is free, but adjustment is required. Repentance. Second thing is repentance is the adjustment God is looking for. And the third thing is this: grace invites, but holiness inspects. I'm going to say it again. Grace invites, but holiness inspects. The king didn't reject the man because he was broken, because he was poor, because he was of a certain social class or not. That's not why the man was rejected. That's not why the man was thrown out in Matthew 22. He rejected him for being unsubmitted. He was unwilling to operate according to the standards of the wedding. That man was found in the wedding. He was in the proximity of the celebration, but he did not have on the garments. He refused to be in the environment according to the terms. See, biblical garments represent repentance, represents righteousness, represents transformation. John chapter 15 reminds us that Jesus said, I am the vine, and those that are every branch in me that bears fruit. Watch this, that every branch that does not bear fruit, he takes away. So connection alone is not the goal. The goal to be connected to Christ is that we may bear fruit and that our fruit may remain. That's the main goal. Connection's important, but that's not the goal alone. It's that we may bear fruit. So grace, what grace does is grace permits entry, but holiness confronts refusal to change. So the grace of God invites all in, and it goes wide. It goes far to reach and brings us all in, regardless of socioeconomic class, regardless of status, regardless of what side of the track you grew up on. Grace brings us all in. But now that we're all in, we all will be examined by holiness, not to justify us being in there, but because of the standards of the King. And so holiness confronts this refusal to change. And so as I close, what we have to understand is that many are called, Matthew 22:14, many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called means that everyone is invited, but few are chosen means not everyone is willing to adjust. So grace is not a permission to stay the same. Grace is the power to change. So I want to encourage you, make the adjustment. Make the adjustment. Make the necessary adjustment that is required to show on the outside what God has already started on the inside. Peace.